that.
Sounds good.
Unless you love staring into like camera lenses, you know.
True,
It's,
I know,
it's
right?
totally up to you.
I'm good, man. My name is Taylor Eide. I am a guy. My favorite sport, I love football. Football's probably my number one. When I played in like middle school, early high school, I was always like the small kid on the team. But I loved it because I could hit people as hard as I want. And that was just fun to me of like being the small guy and kind of toppling over the bigger dudes.
Nice.
It was just like a fun little challenge for me, and I just loved to hit people, I guess. Yeah.
All right.
No, I love football, and I love the aspect of the sport where there's a position for every body type, there's a position for every personality, um, and it's a team sport. It's a very like complex team sport. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I think that is just fascinating to me. Like breaking it down, all the strategy, and very complex game. I like that.
That's awesome. So you like to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the strategy of it all.
That's awesome. Did you ever play QB or anything?
No, I was a wide receiver and a D-back.
Okay.
Most of the time.
All right. Nice. What is your current occupation?
I am a student ministries worship leader at Hosanna at the Rosemount campus. And then I also am a child care specialist at Christina Huddleston Elementary.
Sweet. What is, if you could explain a little bit about both of those, what are maybe your roles or the expectations, the things that you do there?
Yeah, so at Hosanna, my role is I lead worship for student ministries. So I coordinate with the student ministries team at all the campuses. And so I work with making tracks, recruiting students, building relationships with students, leading worship, playing songs, and being able to like teach students what it means to be a worshiper and what it means to kind of be a worship leader.
Nice.
And then at the elementary school, I spend a lot of time. It's a Corona special job. It's students, like elementary school students, who have parents who are essential workers. This is free childcare that the district has set up for them. So usually these kids just can't do the at-home learning, the distance learning at home. So they come back to school and hang out with me and a couple other childcare specialists.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good job.
It keeps you on your feet, keeps you on your toes for sure.
So in that, are you working with a specific grade or are you working with a span of grades?
Span of grades. So I have the older kids generally. So I have 3rd through 6th grade.
Nice.
There's a couple 6th graders there too. Yeah.
That's a high energy group there.
It is, yes, and mostly guys.
Okay.
And so it gets rambunctious quickly.
All right.
But it's always fun.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What drew you to either of those options?
Yeah, well, the first thing is I was drawn to Hosanna. I was really drawn to ministry based on I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I kind of was sitting down one day and thought back on where I felt the most joy, where I felt the most fulfilled. And it was working with kids and working in ministry. Most specifically, I spent 2 summers as a senior counselor at Okoboji Lutheran Bible Camp down in Iowa. And those 2 summers were the best summer of my life. Getting just to hang out with kids and getting to lead worship and play games and just like love on kids and build those relationships with the counselors around me and the students it got me excited, and it was just fulfilling.
That's awesome.
And brought me joy. And I looking back, I was like, man, that's what I want to do. At least right now. I guess I don't know end goal, but in right now, that's what I wanted to do. So I remember I grew up going to Hosanna, and so I had relationships there, and I ended up having a coffee with the worship director, and I was kind of sitting down going like, hey, where are your connections? Like, what do you know of any churches that are open? And he was like, hey, we got this position, like we'd love to kind of get to know you better and check it out. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And had a couple conversations with the right people, and it seemed like a good fit, and I love it there so far.
That's
It's a
awesome.
lot of fun. Yeah.
That's real good. And then what drew you to working with the school programs?
Yeah. So the worship position was part-time, and I didn't know what to do with the rest of my day, and I had rent and bills to pay, so I was kind of figuring out, all right, now what? And old friend of mine, I knew that he was a paraprofessional at Lakeville North.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. It's just not another opportunity to work with kids. And it'll be a great position to kind of hang out at in the meantime while I'm waiting for the Lord to open up a full-time position in ministry.
Yeah.
And so I started out as a paraprofessional at Lakeville North High School, working with EBD students.
Okay.
And then this summer, with everything happening with the hybrid learning in the Lakeville School District, I got moved to the elementary school.
All right.
So, yeah.
How have you seen God use those things to shape other aspects of your life?
I think when I first started my first summer at camp, I remember there was a couple weeks where I had a couple cabins that were very tough for a number of reasons. Usually it was just the kids didn't always listen. They usually did their own thing. I had one cabin, I remember it was by far the most frustrating week. And I think at the end I was angry at points. And I remember at the end of that week, at the last night, I had this huge heart-to-heart with one of the hardest kids. And he, for whatever reason, was just having a tough time. He opened up, and it showed me that it showed me how much everyone has just a different perspective. And I always grew up hearing like, oh, you don't know what other people are going through, but to experience it was, I don't know, it definitely changed how I looked at people. And how I looked at difficult people especially. And walking in doesn't always make working with difficult people easier, but at least there's more understanding of like, okay, like having grace for people who just rub you the wrong way. So I think the most prevalent one right now, at least that I learned from working with youth in ministry.
Awesome. And so understanding that maybe difficult people, there's probably a story behind that.
Yeah.
How do you take that into your daily life as you aim to show God's grace to people?
Yeah, it's just when something kind of hits you and kind of rubs you the wrong way, just trying to remember. I'm not always good at this, but just trying to remind myself not to react, but to just take it in, process it, think about what they're feeling, think about like from their perspective, putting yourself in their shoes, and trying to do that actively with everyone that you're talking to, whether they're difficult or not. And when I do it, it definitely helps me respond way more effectively and way more graciously. And I'm able to treat people the way that I know that I'm called to as a Christian.
Awesome.
As opposed to the way that I want to, based on my own ignorant flesh.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the easy route versus the difficult travel.
Yeah.
Awesome. What has been perhaps a key verse that has influenced your walk?
Romans 12, 4 and 5, I think. It is, I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. It's one was talking about there's one body and many parts.
Sure.
And it's Paul writing to the church in Rome talking about how every part is important. And that every part creates the body, and how the church works that way. I have found myself sometimes feeling frustrated or discouraged when I have a smaller role. And that verse has kept coming up in my life as a reminder of, okay, it's a small role, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its use. And to just trust that what I'm doing even if it feels small, even if it feels insignificant, is a part of the body. And just that encouragement of, okay, like I'm doing something and I'm contributing, and that is all I'm called to do in the moment. Outside of the grand purpose of go and make disciples, love others, the Christian purpose, what is my individual purpose? And what I keep coming back to is it's something to do with loving others and relationally, whether it's outright ministry or whether it's just kind of ministry by being a follower of Jesus, and music. That's kind of been my ultimate passion my entire life. I grew up, my dad, this singer-songwriter, pastor, musician, worship leader. So I grew up in that world, and I've always had that desire to do something with that.
So, as you're looking forward to that excitement, that future that God's putting in your place, what are some of the habits that you've been building right now to kind of prepare yourself for that?
Yeah, being consistent about being in the Word is something that I never really did in high school or even college, as much as it was encouraged. And so I think being consistent about being in the Word is something that, for me, I've grown a lot in, and it has really improved how I approach my relationship with the Lord. I've always been a very emotions person first. I like learning about the theology of things, but the bare bones of just studying the Word was always something that seemed like homework to me. It always seemed like schoolwork or like an assignment. And I've really kind of dug at that this last year and a half to change my feelings towards it and to look at it as more as a opportunity to just eat spiritually and feed myself. And it is still sometimes a tough go of just, one more page, I don't want to do it. But just reading and studying and trying to understand the context and trying to understand what is the heart behind what is being said, what is the heart behind what is being written, what is God trying to reveal to me in these words. As the consistency of that is probably the biggest habit that I've developed over the last year. And then relationships, building and maintaining relationships and community in the church, and having one-on-ones and having consistent discipleship has always been it's always been very important to me, and trying to maintain that and trying to maintain growing and allowing people to pour into me.
That's awesome.
Those have kind of been two things that I think have been the most effective in my walk with the Lord, especially over the last couple of years.
What do you find as the importance of having a discipler?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was someone who poured into my spiritual life, and so many different things helped hold me accountable, helped found resources to, saw what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and found resources to lift up what I have that are strengths, and also to start to build up some weaknesses. And somebody just taught and loved on me, and it was kind of the idea of iron sharpening iron, and building a relationship with just another guy who had a few years on me and had some wisdom to impart, and at the end of the day, just someone who cried with me and who sang out in joy with me.
What would be some words that you would impart either to a younger self or to the youth that will be watching this?
I think if I could talk to myself back in high school, I think I would, or middle school even, I think I would tell myself that high school isn't everything, and that the Lord really does have you. And I think I heard that so much as a pastor's kid, going to a Christian school, going to youth group every Wednesday, and church every single day there was something Jesus related, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I know the Lord has me. But where I'm at, even in a spot of kind of transition and unknown, I look back and I go, holy smokes, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at or who I am unless things timed out perfectly. And I go, all right, so through the bummer, the Lord was there, and through the good, the Lord was there. And I never realized it until this last year, where I kind of looked back and was like, oh my goodness, like, the Lord had me when I thought whatever in drama in high school is the end of the world. And I was like, no, the Lord had me when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It's like, all right, the Lord has me.
Yeah, that's powerful for sure.
Yeah.